Hello and welcome back to another Football Commentaries live stream. Turin is tonight's venue for this Matchday 6 Champions League phase clash between Italian giants Juventus and recent struggling Manchester City. Juve are under a new coach for this season, which is former Bologna man Thiago Motta. Once a player for Genoa and Inter in Italy, Motta is a two-time Champions League winner as a player with Barcelona and Inter Milan. His team on the pitch this season have been tough to beat with just one loss in all competitions so far. That defeat was at home in the Champions League to Stuttgart in matchday 3. For the Blues and Guardiola, it has been a horrid last couple of months with just 2 wins from their last 10 in all competitions, and in this competition they have got 1 point from the last 6 available, with a 4-1 battering by Sporting and a 3-3 draw at home to Feyenoord last time out at the Etihad Stadium. This is just the 7th meeting between the two clubs, and the most recent one was back in November 2015, and it was played here at the Allianz Stadium, as that game ended 1-0 to the Old Lady with an 18th minute winner from Mario Mandzukic. So, with Juve 19th, with Juve 22nd, and City in 20th in the new league phase system, can either of these two teams take a valuable 3 points to push themselves towards qualification for the knockout stages? Like I say, it's a big night for both. They are both in a little bit of a spot of bother in terms of this new Champions League league phase system of the one big Champions League table. Like I say, Manchester City are 20th, Juventus are 22nd, and Feyenoord, who are 25th, they are on 7 points at the moment, and Juventus and Manchester City are on 8 points. So both of these two sides are not far away from relegation from the Champions League. Like I say, Feyenoord are the team with the first relegation spot. Of course, they drew against Manchester City in match day 5, so they're definitely got to be careful. But it's not just Manchester City and Juventus who are kind of flirting around, those relegation spots. PSG are currently on just 7 points themselves. They're only in the top 24 due to goal difference. Manchester City are 20th, Real Madrid are 18th on 9 points. Will they probably get enough to go through to at least the playoff round? Yes, but teams like Real Madrid, Manchester City, Juventus, PSG, they'd want to be aiming for the top 8. And if you finish in the top 8 in the Champions League, you go straight through to the last 16. If you finish between 9th and 24th, you have to go through a playoff round, which is a bit like a round of 32 fixture. So, of course, I think for all these teams, they probably think, let's just qualify for the playoff round. I think a lot of teams have probably been surprised of how difficult this new format can be. Some have took to it really well, and some haven't. For example, Liverpool, 6 wins out of 6, 18 points, pretty much. I think they are through straight away to the next stage of the Champions League in terms of going straight to the last 16. Leverkusen as well on 13 points, Villa on 13 points, Inter on 13 points, Brest on 13 points, so a Lille as well. Barcelona and Dortmund are on 12 each after 5 games. They are taking those last 2 top 8 spots up. So I definitely think it's an intriguing new system, this new league table. I definitely do believe it does bring that kind of a factor of the biggest teams play the biggest teams week in, week out. Sometimes the group stage, if big teams were drawn in different groups, you'd have to wait until the knockouts to see them play one another. But it is more frequent fixtures between the biggest clubs in Europe, and tonight is one of those examples with Juventus taking on Manchester City. And for Juventus, they haven't won the Serie A since the 2019-2020 season. They haven't won the Serie A in the last 4 campaigns, but they did win 9 in a row from 2011 to 2020. So Juventus, despite having a few off years, they are still probably one of the biggest clubs in Italy, alongside the 2 Milan sides. And then for Manchester City, they're currently on a run of 4 Premier League titles in a row that probably will come to an end, as they are struggling, not just in the Premier League, but in all competitions. But at the moment, they are 5th in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they are another fourth at the moment. Manchester City are fourth on 27 points. They drew at the weekend to Crystal Palace away. They went 1-0 down pretty early. Haaland got an equaliser, then they went behind again, but then they were put back into the game at 2-2 by Rico Lewis, every single one of Rico Lewis's Premier League goals have come against Crystal Palace. Two of them at home, and one of them at home, and two of them away. But unfortunately, in the 84th minute, Rico Lewis was sent off in the weekend fixture for Manchester City. But that does mean he can still play tonight because this is UEFA competition, so it is separate to the Premier League. But it does mean that Rico Lewis will miss that Manchester derby at the weekend, which Manchester City will turn their full focus to after tonight. And then for Juventus, they also drew 2-2 at the weekend as well. They were at home to Bologna, Thiago Motta's last team, and it took a 92nd minute equaliser to snatch a point there at home. The man on the bench tonight, Samuel Mbangula, came on and scored the equaliser. They were 2-0 down. Koopmeiners got the first for Juventus, their new signing in the summer from Atalanta. So it'll be interesting how these two sides play. Juventus are currently 9 unbeaten in all competitions, but they've only won 2 of those 9. The other 7 have been draws. And for Manchester City, they are just really struggling for form. 2 wins from their last 10. They came against Southampton and Nottingham Forest. Their Premier League away record hasn't been great. 8 games in the Premier League away, 3 defeats, 2 in November to Bournemouth and Brighton, then 1 at the start of this month to Liverpool. So both teams have something to prove. Like I say, Juventus are drawing a lot of games this season. They have played 20 games in all competitions. They have drawn 11 of those 20, and 5 of those draws have been 0-0. For Manchester City, there's been a lot of goals in their games. They have already scored 51 goals in all competitions this season, but they have conceded 38. It's not exactly like Manchester City are struggling to score more often than not. It is more the fact that they are just really badly struggling to concede, and they want to change that, but they still have a lot of defensive-minded players out. Of course, Rodri out for the season. Stones is out with a foot injury, and apparently to Guardiola, he's not close to returning. Ake also out with a hamstring problem, and Manuel Akanji is still absent. So still a lot of defensive issues for Manchester City, but that cannot be an excuse. They've still got world-class defenders starting tonight, and we'll go through both starting 11s now, as Juventus have made 4 changes from that draw at the weekend to Bologna. It's Mikel Di Gregorio in goal. This is his first ever Champions League campaign as a player at the age of 27. A back 4 at right back will be their young 21-year-old Nicolo Savona, who's making his 4th start in the Champions League this season. He played 66 minutes in their last game in the Champions League against Aston Villa. A left back is a former Manchester City man, played 60 times for them. That is the Brazilian Danilo. And 2 centre-halves are Federico Gatti, and new signing on loan from Milan, and that will be Pierre Kalulu, the French Lyon-born defender. 2 other midfielders of Manuel Locatelli, who made his 150th appearance at the weekend for Juventus, and alongside him will be Khéphren Thuram, who they brought in for €20 million from Nice. 3 behind the striker. On the right is Francisco Conceição. He turns 22 in 3 days' time. On the left will be Kenan Yildiz, the Turkish international. He's featured in every game so far this season for Juventus in all competitions. In behind the striker is going to be Turned Koopmeiners, £46 million signing from Atalanta. And through the middle, leading the line is the Serbian, and that is Dusan Vlahovic, who has got 9 goals already this season in all competitions. For Manchester City, Ederson goes back in goal for his 349th appearance for the club. Back 4 of Kyle Walker, the captain. Left back is Rico Lewis. 2 centre-backs of Ruben Diaz and Josko Gvardiol. 3 midfield of Ilkay Gundogan, making his 325th Manchester City appearance. Alongside him in the midfield 3 will be Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. And then 3 up front on the right will be Jeremy Doku, making his 60th appearance for Manchester City. He's looking for his 10th goal for the club. On the left will be Jack Grealish, who's making his 3rd start in the Champions League, 2 in a row after starting the last one against Feyenoord. And up front, of course, leading the line in his 120th Manchester City appearance, it is Erling Haaland, who is 4 away from 50 Champions League goals in his career. They are the 2 starting 11s. You can also see the 2 benches written at the bottom of the screen, left and right. It'll be Manchester City to kick off, playing in their what looks like more of a maroon kit. kicking from right to left. Juventus defending the kick-off, kicking from left to right. As Edison goes long, header up into the air and away by Gatti. Can't be kept in by Conceição. And midway inside the Juventus half. On this near side, it will be a Manchester City throw-in. Already taken by Rico Lewis to the halfway line to Josko Gvardiol, who returns it to the edge of the City 18-yard box here with Edison, who has been dropped recently from Manchester City's Premier League starting squads. He has been on the bench for the last 3 games for Manchester City in the league. Stefan Ortega has taken his place for now, but he's been restored to the starting 11 for this Champions League fixture in Turin. And he's still on the ball here in the 6-yard box, not being pressed by any Juventus front line at the moment. The 31-year-old goalkeeper, as he lifts it out to the right-hand side. Good touch from Kyle Walker towards the halfway line, plays it into the Juventus half to Haaland, lays it off first time to his right to De Bruyne, then forward to Bernardo Silva, flicks it towards Haaland. It's a slight tackling from Locatelli and he kicks it straight out to the right-hand side to De Bruyne. Manchester City starting strongly here, just over a minute in. They are the team who have dominated the possession. They're on the halfway line now with Ruben Diaz. Into Gundogan, plays it to Walker, down the line to De Bruyne. Looking to play the next pass. He wanted to go forward, but that passing lane was cut off by Kefren Turan. And it's now in the City half with their number 3, Ruben Diaz, whose last goal for Manchester City, in fact, came in the Champions League against Sevilla away from home back in September 2022. Coming up towards 200 appearances for City. Ruben Diaz, this is 196 for the Portuguese international. It's still City, just passing the ball around just towards the halfway line. Juventus not quite pressing too abruptly at the moment, not wanting to tie themselves out too quickly. As Bernardo Silva on that right wing tries to take on former City man Danilo and the Juventus captain, but he slides in well, times the challenge, throwing for Manchester City back on halfway again with their number 2, Kyle Walker, who's making his 57th appearance in the Champions League. Just 1 goal in the competition, and it was his last goal for Manchester City. It was 1,146 days ago. It came away from home in a 5-1 win against Club Brugge back in October 2021 as De Bruyne works across into the far post towards Haaland, caught by the Juventus goalkeeper Mikel Di Gregorio. And it's Juventus now, 2.5 minutes into have a bit of time on the ball. Milan-born Di Gregorio, the Juventus goalkeeper, came through the Inter Academy, leaving in 2022. As with left back Danilo, down the line here to Yildiz. It's now into Thuram, trying to play it back down the line again, can't quite find Koopmeiners. And it's now with Rico Lewis, tackled by Koopmeiners. And it's kicked out of play for a City throw-in on that far side. Just inside their own half here with Kyle Walker, whose last 3 goals have come away from home. His last one at home at the Etihad was against Southampton in November 2019. As he takes a long throw in here up towards Haaland in the final third in a right wing position, battling with Kalulu, chests it down and plays it back into Bernardo Silva. No one in the box though at the moment for Manchester City as Bernardo Silva decides to go backwards here to Ilkay Gundogan. Quick 1-2 there with Lewis. And another one with City's number 82. Now back out wide to Walker, midway inside the Juventus half. Plenty of black and white shirts behind the ball here as Rico Lewis in a central midfield position goes back into the centre circle with Ruben Diaz. Back forward to Grealish in a central area himself, brought down from behind by Thuram. Not seen as a foul by the referee, but then won back by Grealish. And it's now through to Bernardo Silva via Kevin De Bruyne in the final third. Running at Danilo, playing it back in towards De Bruyne, deflects off Yildiz. Throwing in the final third for Manchester City. Good start from Guardiola's side. But they've started well in a lot of these games recently that they have gone on to lose. Started well in the first 10 or so minutes against Spurs at home. Had a good first half an hour against Sporting as well in the Champions League. But for the full duration of the game, Manchester City just haven't been strong enough this season. They have won just 12 of their opening 23 games in all competitions. And one of them started their season in the Community Shield, winning on penalties to Manchester United. They've also won 1 game in the League Cup when they got past Watford, but were then beaten in the next round against Spurs. Here's Edison. He's about 10 yards outside the 18-yard box. Goes into Lewis, then to the left centre-back to Gvardiol. Low ball towards the halfway line to Doku. His first involvement in the game. Getting his shirt pulled by Gatti. And that'll be a free kick for Manchester City. And there is Pep Guardiola taking charge. His 496th Manchester City game. Absolutely ridiculous for the Spaniard, losing just 72 of those previous 495 games. As Juventus play out from the back here in their 18-yard box with Federico Gatti to the right back here. Have Savona down the line here to Conceição, almost taking up a right back position himself as he switches out to the left back of Danilo. That's a great ball from Conceição, and then Danilo in behind here for the run of Vlahovic as he timed his run. The flag stays down for now. He runs into the box and he has a shot deflecting wide, and then the flag goes up. Not the worst of runs there from Dusan Vlahovic. He's tried to bend his run and time it, and he might have just done. Eventually, the referee give the offside as his assistant flagged on the near side. But if Vlahovic had gone on and scored there, it would have been a close call for that offside. But Manchester City have avoided the corner kick, and they've got themselves a free kick, which they've taken. It's on the far side here on the halfway line with De Bruyne back into Kyle Walker. And De Bruyne is the only player to remain from both sides from the last time these two sides met back in November 2015. No other player from Juventus or City are still at those clubs who played in that game, or who was in the squad in that game back in 2015. Both managers back then was Manuel Pellegrini and Allegri, who, of course, left Juventus again at the end of last season. That was his second spell in recent times. Massimiliano Allegri took charge from July 21 to May 24, but then was also in charge from 2014 to 2019 as well. As De Bruyne lifts it to the edge of the box to Haaland, holding it up against Gatti. Can't quite find the return ball to De Bruyne. Deflects out wide left for Juventus to Yildiz, who's facing his own goal here, running back towards his own goal, finding Kalulu in the 18-yard box and forward to Thuram, who could take it on the turn. Brilliant play from Juventus, but Thuram's overran it, and it's well tackled there by Walker. It's now on Gundogan into the centre circle, now to Grealish. Bit of time on the ball, goes forward to De Bruyne, a sloppy pass, but De Bruyne loses out there in the end to Gatti. Not the best of passes, though, from Jack Grealish. And just over 7 minutes in, still 0-0. Manchester City dominating the possession, but no big chances yet from either of the two sides so far. As a head-to-head, they have met 6 times previously. Juventus have won 3. They've drawn twice, and City have only won once against Juventus, and that was in the first meeting between the two. It was back in September 1976. Manchester City won 1-0 in the UEFA Cup first round, and they went on to lose the second leg 2-0. And in that season, it was Juventus to go on and win the UEFA Cup, having to get beyond Manchester City on their way. As Juventus just playing the ball around in their own half, 8 minutes in, still 0-0. It's with Manuel Locatelli, who missed out in Italy's Euro squad in the summer. It was reported that he was very upset with the decision, but he's already back in the Italy team. Locatelli, as he tries a looping ball in behind for Conceição to chase. He's battling with Rico Lewis, and the decision goes Juventus' way for a corner. Rico Lewis just got caught out there, ball in behind him, and Conceição was not giving it up. Rico Lewis just lost the battle. Looks like he may have caught Conceição. Referee didn't give the free kick on that right-hand side for Juventus. He's given a corner instead. And tonight's referee is Clément Turpin, French referee, 42 years of age. Referee the Champions League final back in 2022 and the Europa League final in 2021. You might know of the referee because he looks very much like Arsenal's Leandro Trossard. It's quite scary, the resemblance between the two. As at the moment, Francisco Conceição is still down there from the challenge from Rico Lewis. Really in a lot of discomfort here, the number 7 for Juventus. Like I say, turns 22 in a couple of days. And his dad, Sergio Conceição, was the former Porto manager. You might remember. He left the club in the summer and still hasn't found a new club. Like I say, it didn't look like anything that malicious from Rico Lewis, but it's clearly caused damage for the man who's currently on loan from Porto, Conceição. He is walking on it again. He'll be wanting to continue, of course. He's got 2 of the Juventus medical staff just following him around the pitch here. As on this near side, it's going to be Juventus corner, just less than 10 minutes in. It looks like it's going to be a left-footed in-swinger from Turn Koopmeiners. And the Dutchman delivers the ball into the far post, over hits. Lewis heads it away despite being told to leave it. Bit of miscommunication there. And it'll be a throw-in on the far side for Juventus, just next to the corner flag. Like I say, he could have left it there, Rico Lewis, but clearly didn't hear the shout from Bernardo Silva or Ruben Diaz, the two closest to him. And it'll be Danilo to take this throw in for Juventus. Throws it all the way back, midway side the City half here to Kalulu. Now on the halfway line to Locatelli, but the pass is short. Locatelli gets there with a sliding challenge, boots it away from Erling Haaland, who almost profited from the mistake there from Pierre Kalulu, the French centre-back on loan from AC Milan for this season. Like I say, born in Lyon and came through their academy for 10 years, leaving in 2020. As Kyle Walker has a throw in here on the far side. Throws it into Rico Lewis, who then volleys it forward and out of play. Bit of a nervy start from Rico Lewis. Not usually like him. He is usually quite calm and composed on the ball, but just maybe lacking that little bit of confidence. Sent off at the weekend against Crystal Palace, his first senior red card of his career. Just making his 15th Champions League appearance tonight, Rico Lewis. His first City goal was in the Champions League. He scored against Sevilla back in November 2020. Just 20 years of age, though, Rico Lewis. Is Edison slices a ball out wide to the City left, where Gvardiol is able to keep it in, kicks it straight off Locatelli, and then out for a Manchester City throw-in on this near side. Just a few nervy moments from a couple of these Manchester City players that needs to stop rather quickly, or they will be punished by this Juventus side, who this season have scored 31 goals in their opening 20 games in all competitions, as Jack Grealish sends it out to the right flank here to Walker, who starts his sprints and he plays it here into Bernardo Silva. Walker quick to overlap. We're in the final third now. Bernardo Silva cutting onto his left foot, laying it into the middle here to Gundogan. Back out wide to Bernardo Silva. Attack is slightly slowed down here for the Blues, who are currently waiting for an opening here. Gundogan into Rico Lewis. Nice turn, 25 yards out from goal. Goes to his left to Grealish. Touches heavy, tackled away from him there by Savona, but only as far as Gvardiol, so City can keep the momentum here. It's with the Croatian defender. Out to the left here to Doku. Not really involved in the opening 12 minutes, Jeremy Doku. But they'll be looking to definitely get the most out of him this evening as Gvardiol plays it down the line for Grealish, who will chase it. Gatti gets there first, shielding the ball away, then clearing it down the Juventus right. Header forward by Rico Lewis. Straight to Doku on the left wing. Tackled fairly by Savona, but then he wins it back and gets a kick on his side. And I am assuming that's a Manchester City free kick, and it will be. Well won there by Jeremy Doku. Just getting a stamp on the right foot there. But what I'm noticing with this Manchester City squad, just looking at the ages, it's an ageing squad. Edison 31, Walker 34. You've got Gundogan 34, De Bruyne 33, Bernardo Silva 30, Grealish 29. A lot of rebuilding to do for Guardiola for his remaining seasons at the club. As De Bruyne goes down the left-hand side from the free kick to Doku. Back out to De Bruyne on the left-hand side. Can he work across? He can with his left foot. Headed away towards Grealish on the edge. Volleys it out to the right here to Bernardo Silva. One-on-one with Savona. Goes back into Gundogan. About 30 yards from goal. Relaxes it and goes across to his left here to Lewis. De Bruyne. Plenty of time on the ball here for the Belgian. Goes to the centre circle to Walker. Furthest wide on the right side is Bernardo Silva, and he's been found here. Goes back to Gundogan. And it's well pressed from Juventus. Not aggressively pressing, but just forcing Manchester City to go back to the halfway line. I'd say no real clear-cut chances from either of the two sides in the opening 14 minutes of the game. As it is in the City half, just with Ruben Diaz, who came through the Benfica Academy, spent 12 years there, started as a striker, left as a centre-back, and was brought in for £62 million back in 2020. And Gvardiol bought in for a bit more. He was brought in for £77 million last summer, scored against City in the season before he joined, in the Champions League last 16 when Leipzig were beaten by City. Drew 1-1 in the first leg, but I think lost 7-1, I think it was, wasn't it? Or 7-0, sorry, in the second leg. There's Edison. To his right to Diaz. Back to Edison in the 18-yard box. Forward to Gundogan. Then plays it to Diaz. It's risky play from City, but they've still got it. In the right-back position with Walker. Turns forward. Clears it down the line. And it deflects out of play. Throwing for Manchester City. Not all been fun for Erling Haaland so far this season. He has got 5-5 in the Champions League. He scored a brace in their last game against Feyenoord in that 3-3 draw where Manchester City were leading 3-0, but then were pegged back by 3 goals at home. It's unlike Manchester City, despite the poor run of form. That was a shock result by the end of it, as Doku again tripped by Koopmeiners this time. And midway inside the Juventus half, just drifting into a more central position there, Doku. So electric and so dangerous, the Belgian. It's exactly what he can bring. He missed that game against Feyenoord. Jeremy Doku, who was out for that one last time out. There is Thiago Motta. Took charge of 76 Bologna games. Only lost 18. He got them into the Champions League for the first time in 60 years as well. Thiago Motta retired back in 2018. So we're just about to hit the 16th minute here. De Bruyne, just on the left-hand side, about 30 yards out, has got a chance here to deliver this ball into the box. Doku is also an option out wide. De Bruyne swings it in, can't be flicked on by Grealish. Header away by Thuram. Helped away there by Sao, who's back and seems to be moving all right after that Rico Lewis challenge a couple of minutes ago. City still have it on the halfway line with Gvardiol. Out this near side to Doku. A little bit isolated here for City. Goes back onto the halfway line to Josko Gvardiol, who won 2 German Cups during his time at Leipzig in his 2-year stay at the club. They've switched it from left to right here. Bernardo Silva, midway inside the Juventus half, goes inside to Gundogan. Plenty of time on the ball here for the German international, or former international, should I say. He's retired now from international duty. Ilkay Gundogan. He switch out wide to Doku, headed away by Savona. And it'll be a Manchester City throw-in. Not much in this game so far between the two. And before they last met, which was in the Champions League group stage, before that it was the Europa League group stage. They were in the same group in the 2010-2011 season. They drew 1-1 at the Etihad and then drew 1-1 here at Juventus back in mid-December. As Bernardo Silva, nice bit of skill into the box on the right-hand side, tries to pull it back. Blocked off there by Kalulu, and it's a City corner on the far side. Well won there by Bernardo Silva, who has just scored the 2 goals so far this season. 1 in the Community Shield final to Manchester United to equalise, and also 1 in the league, which was just over a week ago now. Or exactly a week ago, should I say, against Nottingham Forest in that very much needed Manchester City win. It looks like it's going to be a right-footed outswinger here from Kevin De Bruyne. Cross goes in towards the penalty spot away from Haaland, and it will go through towards Grealish, who keeps it away from Savona. Tries to backheel it into Bernardo Silva, not quite on the same wavelength, picked up by Locatelli. Goes to his goalkeeper of Di Gregorio, who can clear it up towards the halfway line. Vlahovic flicks it out wide, reaches Lewis first, who can then lay it off to Walker, then volleys it back to Edison. And Manchester City are back in possession of the football, as Manchester City's current winless run against Juventus is their joint longest against an opposition in European competition, along with their 5-game run against Barcelona, which fell between 2014 and 2016. So they don't want to make this a record where Juventus become a team they just struggle to beat. Like I say, not beat them since 1976. That's it, with Manchester City. With Walker switching out to the left there towards Doku. Header away from Savona. Controlled by Sao. Back to Savona at right back. Goes into Locatelli. Then across the 18-yard box here to Kalulu. Being pressed here slowly by Bernardo Silva. Finds the left back Danilo. It's now into the goalkeeper, who needs to clear it quickly. Haaland tries to press, but he can quickly play it out to the right back here of Nicolo Savona, who was called up to the Italy squad for the first time in the November international break. And he finds Sao in the final third. Doubled up on at the moment, as he's been forced to go back to Locatelli, who crosses into the box towards the penalty spot himself, headed away by Gvardiol. All as far as the left winger here of Kenan Yildiz, who will get onto his right foot. He'll strike it from afar. And it's just wide of that far post. First real look of goal from either of the two teams. Kenan Yildiz with the strike, about 22 yards out, not far away. It had gone under Edison. It seemed like it was always just curling slightly wide there. And that is seriously not far. It just bends away from goal. Still looking for his second Champions League goal, Yildiz scored the opener against PSV on match day 1 for the old lady. Hasn't scored in this competition since. And it's back-to-back English opposition for Juventus as well. Drew 0-0 away at Aston Villa in the last match day. As it's Manchester City who will have the ball here with Rico Lewis at left back. Just less than 20 minutes in, it's Juventus 0, Manchester City 0. Biggest chance we've had was probably that Yildiz shot about 30 seconds ago. Wasn't too far wide. As it's Rico Lewis on halfway, comes out to this near side of a pass to Jack Grealish, now at the age of 29, will turn 30 next September. Doku can't turn Savona. Throw in for Manchester City, tried a neat little turn there, Jeremy Doku, didn't quite come off for the Belgian. He's got a contract here at Manchester City for another 4 years. Brought in last season from Stade Rennais for £55 million. Kyle Walker at right back. Out wide it goes to Bernardo Silva. We're still in the Manchester City half at the moment. So Ruben Diaz. No real options going forward here. Finds Bernardo Silva, who stood pretty much right next to him. He can get his way out of trouble. Play it to Kyle Walker, who can skip beyond Coop Miners. And goes back out to Bernardo Silva. So needs to be careful they don't lose possession here, Manchester City. Lewis in the midfield. Gundogan, first time pass forward to De Bruyne. That's brilliant. And then De Bruyne to Haaland, who loses out to Danilo. Kicked away, out wide towards Bernardo Silva. Kept in by Thuram for Juventus, who can play it into Coop Miners. His back heel will reach Yildiz, sending Gundogan to the floor. And he switches it out to the right to Conceição. Brilliant pass. Good football from Juventus. Conceição running at Lewis. Goes on the outside. Right-footed pull back straight to Bernardo Silva, who can clear. Bit of a hurried clearance, really. Had more time than he thought. Manchester City's number 20, who has never won against Juventus. He's played them 4 times in his career, Bernardo Silva. Both of them in the Champions League knockout stages for Monaco. As Juventus have got a ball into the box there towards Vlahovic. Caught by Ederson, quickly rolled out here into a central area for Grealish. He's got plenty of green grass to run into. He enters the Juventus half. He's got De Bruyne and Doku to his left. Feeds it to De Bruyne. On once more to the left here to Doku, running at Savona. Onto his right foot. Skips beyond the Italian right back and then shrugs off Conceição. And it goes back here into Lewis. Plenty of bodies now behind the ball for Juventus, but Manchester City have got everyone camped inside the Juventus half. Everyone with a outfield shirt on. It's Gundogan giving time on the ball. Everyone behind the ball at the moment for Juventus, not wanting to give too much away. Like I said, they are difficult to beat, Juventus. Losing just one of their opening 20 games this season in all competitions. Unbeaten in the league. Conceding just 10 from their opening 15. Gundogan, great dummy to find De Bruyne, and then gets the ball played to him eventually. And then Gundogan lays it off to the far post. It does reach Doku, who goes on the outside of the full-back and then squares the ball, and it's cleared by Gatti. And it can be kept in by Conceição. In a right-back position, he finds Locatelli, who will go for the switch out towards Yildiz. Heads it backwards there to Danilo. Well dealt with here by Juventus. It's with Yildiz again. Returns it to Danilo. Simple 1-2, but it works. His first pass doesn't work, but then it is played through to Coop Miners. He'll try and lay it off for Vlahovic. It's nowhere near him. Poor decision-making from Coop Miners, and Rico Lewis brings it away. Out to the left again to De Bruyne. It's now Doku. Cuts inside and then plays it through for De Bruyne. A brilliant pass. The angle's tight. He'll go for the pass towards Haaland. It deflects around in the box. Bernardo Silva can't quite get the ball towards the back of the net. And eventually it runs through for Danilo. But Manchester City getting slightly closer. Again, not really testing the goalkeeper of Mikel Di Gregorio. Brought in from Monza, their new goalkeeper. Di Gregorio finished 12th last season in Serie A. There's 4 Manchester City in the Premier League. It's 4 wins from their last 10. Those 4 wins came against Fulham, Wolves and Southampton. They were all in a row in October, and then their 4th out of those 10 games came against Forest. 4 points from the last 18 available for Manchester City just quite isn't good enough for title-winning form, as they are currently on 8 Premier League titles in their history. Manchester City, 6 of them with Pep Guardiola. 24.5 minutes in, still 0-0. Juventus on the ball, high ball down the right-hand side here towards Conceição. Again, battling with Rico Lewis. That's been a really interesting battle so far. And he kicks it off the Portuguese winger, and it'll be a Manchester City throw-in in their own half on this near side. Throw-in taken quickly to Josko Gvardiol. And Juventus have drawn their last 2 Champions League games against Aston Villa and Lille, both away from home. They haven't drawn 3 games in a row in this competition since the 2012-2013 season under Antonio Conte. And at the moment, this game is also a draw. But we're only 25 minutes in, but again, just not many huge chances. Manchester City are enjoying the majority of the ball, though. Diaz has it in the centre circle, goes into the Juventus half, and then plays it out to the right wing here to Bernardo Silva. Midway side the Juventus half, brings it forward, and then ends up going back to Kyle Walker. Lewis picks up with the midfield again. Time on the ball for him. Grealish. Out to the left here to Gavardio. It's now Darku. Again running at Savona. Goes on the outside of him and has the pace to keep it in. No, he doesn't. That's gone out. Goalkeeper's caught it anyway, but the ball has gone out for a goal kick. Just didn't quite have enough pace there. Jeremy Doku, man who came through the Anderlecht Academy. But still 0-0 here. Like I say, we've had two draws in this fixture. Like I say, both of them 1-1. Both of them in that 2010-2011 Europa League group stage. As Juventus go along, it's well held up here by Yildiz, who's then eventually pulled to the ground and he wins a free kick for his team. It's actually Vlahovic, who won that free kick. Good hold-up play. And he can do that part of the game, Vlahovic. He's 6'3", he is quite big, and he was just brought down there by Diaz and sandwiched by him and Rico Lewis eventually. A rightly given free kick there by the referee, Clement Turpin. Juventus have got the ball moving in their own half. So the centre-back, Federico Gatti, who was called up for Italy for the Euros, but didn't play a minute whilst in the competition. Kalulu. Yildiz, first time ball inside to Koopmeiners. We're still in the Juventus half at the moment, and he gives it away again, Koopmeiners. Not a good start to the game for the Juventus number 8. He's made himself well known in Serie A, Turner Koopmeiners, mainly for his last couple of years with Atalanta. He has played Manchester United 4 times himself, Koopmeiners, playing the red side of the city, and never scored against Manchester United. There's Doku on halfway on this near side, keeping it away from Savona and having to go all the way back to Ederson on the edge of the 18-yard box. You can see why Juventus haven't conceded many. They are really tough to break down. And for that, you've got to have a lot of concentration throughout the full 90 minutes. But they've kept concentration for the first 27.5 minutes here at the Allianz Stadium. Still 0-0 between Juventus and Manchester City. This stadium opened in 2011. Hosted the Women's Champions League final back in 2022 when Barcelona were defeated 3-1 by Lyon. The City have it on the edge of the box here with Diaz. Finding Ederson. Plenty of time on the ball here for the former Sao Paulo and Benfica goalkeeper, Ederson. It's now Gavardio on this near side. Forward to Doku on halfway. Gets away from Savona, almost. No trip. Gone down too easily according to the referee. Juventus have it back. And a brilliant turn by Yildiz, who's been on fire so far tonight. Yildiz plays it through towards Vlahovic. He'll reach him. Angle's gone tight. He'll try and pull it into the box, but no one's there. Easy collection for Ederson. Looks really good. The 19-year-old Kenan Yildiz, the Turkish left winger. Born in Germany. Came through Bayern's academy for 10 years, but he does have a Turkish father. But it might be Manchester City's turn to attack, but they've not really done anything in terms of threatening the Juve goal at the moment, the Travellers. It's a 4-hour round trip on the plane for City and their supporters for tonight. Gundogan in the centre circle. Goes to Diaz. Plenty of time on the ball here. Not being pressed at the moment by Dusan Vlahovic. De Bruyne on the far side. Just a bit flat for Manchester City. A little bit lethargic at times. They try and speed up their play if possible. They've got the derby at the weekend. City at home. Then they've got to travel to Aston Villa on the 21st. And then back home for Boxing Day against Everton. Not the easiest of fixtures for Manchester City. It'll definitely be an interesting derby to say the least. As Ederson lifts out to the right hand side here, it's pinpoint to De Bruyne. But again, no one really there with him. Has to wait for Walker to get involved on halfway. It's now Gundogan. Back out wide to De Bruyne. Run down the line by Bernardo Silva. He's been found here in the final third. 1-on-1 with Thuram. Plays it to De Bruyne on the edge of the box. Back into the space for Bernardo Silva. On his right foot. Delivers a cross in. Headed away by Locatelli. As far as Gundogan, 20 yards out. He's back to goal at the moment. And goes back to Gavardio. Then forward to Lewis. Out wide to Grealish. Well kept here for Manchester City. Doku. Inside to Lewis. To his right once more to Gundogan. Now to the Bernardo Silva at right wing. He's got Kyle Walker making a run inside. He's found him. Walker, pull back, cleared by Gatti. Still in the box here with Yildiz. Turns out and plays it to the edge of the area to Koopmeiners. And then a spray ball out wide right here to Conte. Sawu will be able to keep this in on the near side. And it's Juventus back on the ball. 31 minutes played almost. And it's still 0-0 here at the Allianz Stadium. Not won in their last 3 Champions League games. Juventus 2 draws to Villa and Lille. And losing that game to Stuttgart. They did win their first 2 though. 3-1 home win to PSV, then winning 3-2 away at RB Leipzig, where they had 10 men for some of that game as well. As there's a switch ball out to the left there for Juventus. That's an unbelievable touch by Yildiz, who gets around Walker in the box on that right foot. First shot blocked by Diaz, still not dealt with, eventually poked away again by Diaz. Bernardo Silva kicks it away, and it comes off a Juventus man last, and that'll be a goal kick for City. Brilliant ball in behind there by Locatelli to find Yildiz, and he brought that ball down like he had glue on his boot and then ran right round Walker. There's been big question marks over the City captain, and they won't stop coming if he keeps getting done like that by so many of these young up-and-coming wingers. Thankfully that time for Walker, Diaz was at his aid to block that first Yildiz shot. Ederson goes to that right back of Kyle Walker. Spent 13 years coming through at Sheffield United before spending 7 years at Spurs, making 229 appearances. Ederson's kick is on the floor, but it goes up towards Haaland in the centre circle. Really poor touch by the Norwegian. Won back there by Juventus far too easily. It's now with their goalkeeper, Di Gregorio. It goes to the left back here in the defensive third for Danilo. Thuram. Danilo. All within 5 yards of each other. Thuram in a left back position. Turned away from Bernardo Silva. Needs to play the pass if possible. Goes inside brilliantly to Danilo. Then back out wide to Koopmeiners. They have got a real good way of playing out, Juventus. It's positive until they do that kind of pass. Thuram tries to send it down the left-hand side. Straight out of play. Throwing for Manchester City as Thiago Motta retired but stayed at PSG, the team he retired at, and became a manager for their under-19s before moving on to Genoa, one of his other former teams he played for. Only spent a couple of months there in 2019 before moving to Spezia for a year, where he got them to finish 16th, and then he moved on to Bologna, where he had his best time of his career, like I say, getting them to qualify for the first time in the Champions League for 60 years. City have it in the midfield towards Rico Lewis. It's a hospital pass from Grealish, and then the referee gets in the way, and the referee blows the whistle. Had Koopmeiners just run right into his back there, and that'll be a drop ball, I assume, for Juventus. He definitely felt that one, the referee. Tried to get out of the way, but then ran right into Koopmeiners. Not exactly the Juventus midfielder's fault there, to be honest. So drop ball, and Juventus have it back. Edge of the 18-yard box here with Kalulu. His last goal coming back in January 2023, whilst he was at AC Milan. Coming against Roma at home. I think it was a 1-0 win as well, that game. Di Gregorio for Juventus. To the right centre-back of Gatti. Forward to Vlahovic, linking the play. Going out to the right here to Savona, but tackled by Doku. Grealish aggressively brought down from behind by Locatelli on halfway. Free kick for Manchester City. Bit too close there, a bit too physical. Juventus number 5, who was suspended for the Juventus Cup final win last season when they beat Atalanta. They have won 2 Italian Cups, Juventus, since the year of 2020. But not won a league for 4 seasons. Bernardo Silva to the centre-back here, Diaz, who's just inside his own half. No one pressurising him at the moment. Gvardiol to Grealish. He's almost standing in a left-back position here. Plays it across to the central centre-back here of Ruben Diaz. Wanting to go forward. Could have gone forward, but didn't. Because he was left to Gvardiol. Now out wide to Doku on halfway. Again, he's going to run at Savona. Inside he goes instead to Lewis. It's now Diaz. Bernardo Silva on the right wing. Kyle Walker. Midway side the Juventus half in a central midfield position here. The captain goes back though to Lewis. Now wide once more to Bernardo Silva. Less than 10 minutes of the first half to go. Still 0-0 here at the Allianz Stadium. Rico Lewis switches out to the left to Jeremy Doku. In the final third, again 1-on-1 with the Juventus fullback. Goes to the edge of the area to Lewis. Once more to his right to Gundogan. And then again to De Bruyne. And now furthest wide right is Bernardo Silva, and he receives the pass. And then back on the angle to De Bruyne, who will swing the ball in. Header from Kalulu, but deflects towards Haaland. His shot is blocked by Locatelli, then bounces back off the chest of Haaland and into the gloves of the goalkeeper, Mikel Di Gregorio. And again, it still remains 0-0 here. City still not doing enough to warrant taking the lead, despite dominating a lot of the ball early on. But Juventus have lost 4 of their last 6 home games in the Champions League. This is as many as defeats as they suffered from the previous 40 home matches in the competition combined. They lost 4 between October 2013 and December 2021. So they're not exactly doing that well when they play at home here in this competition. As Grealish tries to play it through for Haaland in the box. The angle's tight. He pulls it across, but no one's there. No one at all is attacking it. Really poor from the other Manchester City attackers there, leaving Haaland pretty much on his own. As they have won it back with Kyle Walker. And it's now with Gundogan going back to Diaz. It was a nice little slip ball there through by Grealish to find Haaland, who had just gone a little bit too far wide. But then you've got to expect the players supporting to get in there with you. But no one was. Everyone behind the ball for Juventus. Like I say, they're so solid when they haven't got the ball. Won 2 Champions Leagues in their history. Juventus, their last in 1996. They also won it as well in 1985. City have just got the one Champions League. Of course, that came in the 2023 campaign. They've won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1970. So, lots of history between these two clubs. It's Kyle Walker. Plays it forward towards the halfway line to Haaland. Beats Kalulu to it, but his touch out wide right is towards absolutely nobody. And Juventus have it back. Danilo into the midfield to Locatelli. Then into the path it to Koopmeiners. Walker slides in, gets a foot in. So does Grealish. He also gets a foot in, but it still finds its way to Vlahovic. Then Locatelli lifts it out wide to the left of Yildiz. Into Thuram, who's, well, Yildiz, the winger, was the one found offside. And the assistant referee on this near side had the flag up. It says Locatelli just curled it out to the left wing position. Yildiz was coming back from an offside position. So City have it. Ruben Diaz on halfway. In between the lines for Rico Lewis. Finds a nice pocket of space, but he's slide tackled by Locatelli. But then headed forward by Gvardiol, who gets on the seconds. It's now Grealish, number 10. Caught late by Conseil. Sau. Play continues, though, with City attack with De Bruyne. Slipping it through for Erling Haaland, who can lift it onto the hand of the goalkeeper. Really good save from Di Gregorio, who can then clear it with his right boot. And almost for Erling Haaland, an almost goal, but it was well denied by Mikel Di Gregorio. And it looks like Juventus want to go at the other end and try and get a goal themselves. Conseil Sau on the right wing, running at Lewis, into the box, onto his left foot, laying it off. Danilo with this shot straight down the throat of Edison. The ball went from one Brazilian to another, and it's City who can restart from the back. Rolling it out to the right back of Kyle Walker. Nearly a chance there for Erling Haaland, almost assisted by Kevin De Bruyne, who's making just his second start in the Champions League this season. Started the opener against Inter Milan in that 0-0 draw at the Etihad. Grealish right in the middle of the pitch. Again, he's finding nice bits of room, Grealish, and he gets it back again here from De Bruyne. Furthest wide left is Doku, and he's been found, and he runs at the Juventus defence, finds Grealish, deflects through to De Bruyne on that left-hand side, tackle well by Coot Miners. Now Conceição on this near side, running forward, try to take on Gavardiol. And he kicks it out of play there, Conceição, who has been motivated to try and carry on by his manager right next to him there, Thiago Motta. Less than 5 minutes to go. See the chance again. Gundogan found De Bruyne really well. Then De Bruyne does what De Bruyne does, slipping the ball through into the box from Haaland, about 12 yards out. Goalkeeper came, tried to just lift it over him, the Norwegian striker, but he was equal to it, the Italian goalkeeper. Definitely Manchester City's biggest chance of the game so far, as they've been the team on top in this game, but Juventus have looked dangerous on the counter-attack, and when they have had the ball, which hasn't been often, but when they have looked dangerous. Doku tripped by Conceição right on this left wing here, very far wide, and that'll be a free kick for City. He has won plenty of free kicks tonight already, Jeremy Doku, who's got just the one goal in the Champions League in his career. That came last season for City, away at Leipzig. De Bruyne with the football in his hands as the referee just has a discussion here with Conceição and Doku. Conceição and Grealish now exchanging a couple of words. But eventually De Bruyne can place the ball down on this left-hand side and start to think about where he might deliver this cross into the box. It would be a great time for either of the two to score right before the break. It's gone quite quick this first half, it feels. De Bruyne goes for a cross which almost ended up being a shot. It was aimed towards the near post, and it was Kefren Turan who's had to head behind for a corner. We know De Bruyne likes to be as clever as possible. City's number 17 looking to try and provide yet another goal for Manchester City. The last time Juventus lost here at home was back in the middle of February. 1-0 loss to Udinese. Don't lose very often here at home. They haven't won though in the last 4 games in all competitions. Juventus, they have drawn the last 4 games as De Bruyne in-swinger to the near post, it's headed away and then flicked on the penalty spot by Conceição, kicked forward by Lewis, isn't great, headed away by Vlahovic, dealt with by Gundogan, who goes back to Walker, who then returns it all the way to Ederson on the edge of the 18-yard box, and Juventus deal with that corner rather well, as it's still 0-0 between the two, got 90 seconds left of this first half. And for Manchester City, with their struggle, they are in the top 4 at the moment in the Premier League, like I say, 4th position. But the last time they finished outside the top 4 in the Premier League was in the 09-10 season. So it shows you how consistent they have been in terms of getting the top 4 in the last 15 or so years. Diaz. Back to Ederson on the edge of the box again. Good pressing there by Vlahovic to put Diaz under a little bit of pressure. Already played a lot of the big boys as well, Juventus. They have played Roma at home, which they drew 0-0. Played Napoli at home, drew 0-0. Lazio at home won 1-0. Drew 4-4 away at Inter Milan. And drew 0-0 to AC Milan. So they have already played a lot of the big teams in Italy, and it's very close in Italy at the moment. Juventus are 6th with 27 points. They are just 7 off first. So it is quite tight up there at the moment in the Italian league. Juventus have it in their own half with the right centre-back of Federico Gatti, whose last goal came in a 1-0 home win in April to Fiorentina in the league. He was playing in Serie B only as little as 3 seasons ago with Frosinone, the team he was signed from in the January of 2022. As it's towards the left back position there, but it's a poor ball inside, but it's well dealt with by Danilo. Always put under a bit of pressure there by Kalulu. It's now Thuram. very tall presence in there. 6'4" Kefren Turan, his dad being Lilian and his brother being Marcus Turan, who's playing at Inter Milan at the moment. And he was actually born in Italy, Kefren Turan, whilst his dad Lilian was at Parma. But he has decided to represent France, where he did grow up. 1 minute added on. We'll play 32 seconds of that to be exact. And Locatelli sends a high ball out wide for Conceição, who has got the better of Rico Lewis. And he plays it down the middle of the pitch to Koopmeiners. Then out wide right, back towards Vlahovic. Keep it in towards the corner flag. Rico Lewis following. He goes back here to Savona. Tackle fairly there by Rico Lewis. Doku with it. Runs out of pitch. Throwing for Juventus. And it's been left for the right back to take a Savona. They want to try and take it quickly if they can, because we're running out of time, and he has no time to take it. And that'll be the whistle blown by the referee, Clement Turpin, and it is Juventus 0, Manchester City 0, a half that has lacked any huge chances. It's been Manchester City who have dominated a lot of the ball, but as I say, really missing that quality in the final third. Juventus came closest out of the two, I would say, with a Kenan Yildiz shot that was just wide of the post. That was in the half an hour mark. And then Manchester City's big chance dropped to their main man, Erling Haaland. It was a through ball down the left side of the box by De Bruyne. Haaland got into the box, got onto the ball and tried to lift it over the goalkeeper who'd rushed off his line, but it was well saved by Mikel Di Gregorio. And despite probably one decent chance each, it is still 0-0 on the scoreboard here at the Allianz Arena. I'm going to have a break. I'll be back for the second half. As at the moment at half time, it is Juventus 0, Manchester City 0, but come back in 15 minutes for second half live commentary of this game between Juventus and Manchester City. Oh, we are back for the second half at the Allianz Stadium as Juventus currently are holding Manchester City to a 0-0 draw here in Turin. That could change in this second half. We'll have to wait and see if both teams start to emerge back on to the field of play. For the first team out is the home side, Juventus, who have defended really well. Stopped Manchester City looking at all like scoring. They had one half decent chance, Erling Haaland having a shot saved by the goalkeeper Di Gregorio after a ball slipped through by De Bruyne. But for Juventus, we know they are hard to beat. They have played 20 games in all competitions so far, just losing the one, conceding just the 15 as well. And I think for Manchester City, not conceding is also rather a positive. They've not exactly been keeping many clean sheets so far this season. 3 in the first 15 in the Premier League, 2 at home against Southampton and Forest in those 2 wins, and then also on the opening game of the season when they travelled to Stamford Bridge and won 2-0. As we're back underway here in Turin, it's Juventus to kick off, kicking right to left, Manchester City left to right. Both teams could do with the 3 points in terms of that league phase, getting into the top 24 to at least qualify for the playoff round. Then, of course, definitely they need 3 points if they want to look to try and get into the top 8, which would send them straight through to the last 16. City now on the ball in the 18-yard box here with Edison. Not really had too much work to do. Manchester City's number 31 at the age of 31. His contract expires in just less than 2 years here at the club. Joined back in 2017. It's Ruben Diaz at right centre-back for Manchester City. 44 now of his 57 Champions League appearances have come in the colour of blue for Manchester City. Still on the ball here. Finding the right back of Kyle Walker. Lifted ball towards the halfway line. Headed away by Thuram. Headed forward by Danilo. Flicked on by the head of Koopmeiners. Vlahovic not coming back from an offside position. Has the ball now for Juventus in the City half. So the left back Danilo. Down the line here for Yildiz. Into the middle here for Thuram. Turns out. Looks forward. Goes for the switch instead out to the right to Conceição. They can really play it when they start knocking it about. Juventus, as Conceição takes it around Darku towards the corner flag, kicks it off the Belgian. And that'll be a corner for Juventus. Well won there by Francisco Conceição, who scored 1 goal at the Euros just gone. It was a 92nd minute winner for Portugal in their first game in the group stage against the Czech Republic. Scored the 1 goal so far this season in the Champions League, Conceição, and it was an 82nd minute winner against RB Leipzig away from home, their last win in the competition back in match day 2. As the resulting corner is an in-swinger, it's a brilliantly curled ball, it's a good header by Diaz, a volley on the edge of the box by Yildiz will curl all the way back out for Koopmeiners, and he is coming back from an offside position, so that'll be a free kick in a left-back position for the travelling side from Manchester. This stadium can hold just over 41,500 supporters, and it looks pretty sold out, if I say so myself. Still a couple of empty seats knocking about, but of course we've just had half time, so I'm sure it's just a lot of supporters coming back from their half time snack and drink. As in that corner to the left hand side, it's the goal City defending the second half, is those travelling Manchester City supporters who would love to see a win. It would be hard fought. This won't be easy. They're a good side, Juventus. They've shown that so far, especially defensively. As Kyle Walker kicks a pass too hard, and it's straight down the plate. Throw in on the halfway line for Juventus. For Danilo, just a heavy pass there by Walker. Went right beyond the foot of De Bruyne, as it's now worked back to Di Gregorio for Juventus. Allowed to have time on the ball. Lifts it out to the left towards Danilo, who can't keep it in. Throw it midway inside the Juventus half here on the near side for Manchester City. Taken quickly by Walker, throws it back into his own half here for Diaz. Gvardiol having to play it centre-back for now, as City have 3 centre-backs out with Ake, Kanji and Stones. Bernardo Silva, nice back heel down the line towards De Bruyne, kicked out by Kalulu. Another throw in here for Manchester City. Walker, of course, will be the one to take once again. Not lots of movement for him at the moment. There's Guardiola barks instructions from the technical area here. Kyle Walker still not took the throw in until now, where he gets the ball returned to Gundogan, then back to the German, who goes into Ruben Diaz in the City half. Just under 4 minutes into the second half. It's still 0-0. Could go either way at the moment, I'd say. Both teams have equally looked like scoring. Not looked like scoring many times, but both have had similar amounts of chances towards goal. There's a City camping the Juventus half here on the right side with Walker. Again, time on the ball. Finds Bernardo Silva. Down the line for De Bruyne. A bit of time here and a bit of space in the final third. Low ball in for Gundogan, who can have a shot towards goal in the box. Deflects. Haaland can't work it to Grealish. Volleyed away. Big chance that for Gundogan, really. The one who was found in the most space and time in the box by De Bruyne, who'd made a clever run down that right flank for Manchester City. Just didn't quite connect with the shot, Gundogan. I don't think he quite believed how much time he was given there. Already scored twice this season in the Champions League, Gundogan. Firstly away against Slovan Bratislava, then in the most recent game at home to Feyenoord. Doku on the left wing, running it. Savona again. Tries to go on the outside of him, and he can keep it away from the Italian right back for now. Towards a corner flag. Plays it backwards here to Grealish, who offers his support. Grealish now on the ball. Playing it into a central area here for Diaz. Bernardo Silva's got space on the right wing. Diaz will go to Walker first, then out to Bernardo Silva. De Bruyne's company. He's got Gundogan on the edge of the box, tries to dummy it for Haaland, but it's Federico Gatti to get there first. Plays it to the left back now of Danilo. Left-footed pass forward to Vlahovic, who can be tackled and fouled there by Ruben Diaz, who will be rather lucky to escape a booking. I think he has. Just quite simply didn't get the ball first there, Ruben Diaz. But there you go, Gundogan, right-footed shot. It was well blocked, in fact, by Gatti. But even so, I think if it was on target, probably would have been saved anyway. As Juventus start from their goalkeeper in the 18-yard box, Haaland is pressing. He sweeps it to the left to Kalulu. It's now to Danilo in the defensive third. Down the line here for Yildiz. Can work it to Thuram. His ball down the line is high. It's bouncing towards Vlahovic, who again gets the beating of Diaz. And Juventus have kept it. They have gone back, though, to Kalulu in the 18-yard box. Needs to play a pass. He does go forward. It's a bit loose, but it can work its way to Coop Miners. Almost intercepted there by Doku. It's now Conceição on the far side. It's inside his own half. Making the pass to the left centre-back here of Kalulu. Yildiz. Playing inside to Thuram. Turning away from Gundogan. Thuram facing his own goal. Finding Gatti. 6 starts in a row for Gatti in the Serie A. Currently keeping his spot. But again, Juventus have got quite a few defenders out. Mainly their main one, Bremer, the Brazilian centre-back, who's out for the season with an ACL injury. Juventus still knocking it around in their own half. City are following the ball well, but not being able to take it off them until now, where Vlahovic couldn't quite control the pass there on the halfway line. And it's now Gundogan on the halfway. Grealish taken out off the ball. But City continue to play with De Bruyne. Pass just too far in front of him from Gvardiol. Picked up here, and Juventus can try and break. They're sat quite deep. They're defending well, Juventus, but when they win it, they do lack bodies forward at times. But they've got it to Conceição on the right wing. Again, running at Rico Lewis in the box, in the corner of the box. Twisting and turning. He's got Gvardiol to take on as well. Still with Conceição, playing it back here to Savona. Well kept there by the Porto loanees. Now Locatelli on the angle to cross it. Acrobatic from Gatti, and it's saved by Ederson. Still alive, just outside the box for Juventus. Yildiz digs out across towards Vlahovic. What a save from Ederson. Has he kept it out? No, he hasn't. The ball has gone over the line. And the home side take the lead here in Turin. Almost an incredible save there from Ederson. But he couldn't quite avoid the ball going over the line. And it was Vlahovic who wheeled away in celebration. It's his 10th goal of the season in all competitions. It's his 4th in the Champions League. He's back in the Champions League starting 11 after missing the game completely against Aston Villa in the last match day. Gvardiol not being able to clear it, pretty much passed it back out wide for Yildiz, who digged that cross out into the 6-yard box. And it was Vlahovic to win the header on Gvardiol. And Ederson saved it pretty well, but he just couldn't quite avoid it going over the line. That looks close to me. Obviously, goal line technology will give us the proof that it did go over the line. But Vlahovic heading it right at Ederson, but he couldn't quite move it away from him. It almost stuck to Ederson, and he was moving back towards his goal line. It kind of just brushed off him and behind the goal line. He couldn't quite push it out in time. And despite City dominating a lot of the game, Juventus have defended really solidly and counter-attacked with a lot of threat. And they've eventually got the opening goal of the game 54 minutes in. Juventus 1, Manchester City 0. Vlahovic with the goal. It's really poor, though, from Josko Gvardiol. In that position, when you're in the 18-yard box, you've got to clear it further than that. But he pretty much passed it straight out to Yildiz out wide. He's had a good game anyway. So if there's someone you want to give the ball away to, it's definitely not him on the Juventus left. And it was a beautifully curled cross in for Vlahovic, who just wanted it more and got up and won the header. Like I said, the header wasn't great. It was straight at Ederson, but it just came at him too quick, and Ederson couldn't stop it from going beyond the goal line. And City have got a mountain to climb again if they want to win the game. But it looks like, if anything, they're going to do well to draw the game, because Juventus are defending really solidly here. City not really got a lot of life in their attacks so far tonight. On the halfway line, near side, Bernardo Silva will drive forward with the ball. Being chased by Yildiz, gets away from Danilo as well. Brilliant run from Bernardo Silva. Chops onto the left foot, kicked out of play from Danilo right next to the corner flag. It is a Manchester City throw-in on this near side. Taken quickly. It's now with Ilkay Gundogan. He's just drifted out to this right-hand side. Finds Rico Lewis. Back into Diaz. Everyone behind the ball for Juventus. Diaz out wide right to Bernardo Silva. Outside of the boot ball. Look for the run of Gundogan. Dealt with, though, by Thuram. Kalulu picks it up. And he drives. And he plays it to his left here to Yildiz. City high line. Has the Vlahovic offside. As he plays a ball in behind here for Conceição. Gvardiol gets there first. But the second ball drops to Conceição. Flag still not up from the assistant referee. It's on the left wing here with Vlahovic. Allowed to cross. Headed forward, but well wide there by the right back of Nicolo Savona. And it's a goal kick for Manchester City. Signed a new 5-year deal with the club. Savona, the Juventus right back, in August of this year. And it is Juventus who lead at the moment. And it's now City who want to try and respond. It's Doku. Skipping away from Coop Miners. It's now Rico Lewis. 10 yards inside the Juventus half. Goes out to the right here to Walker. Bernardo Silva. One-on-one with Danilo. Looking for that next pass. He's got De Bruyne out wide. Finds him. Then inside to Gundogan. Lays it off for Bernardo Silva on the edge of the area. On that left foot. Plays it across here to Grealish. On that left foot himself. Lays it off for Doku in the box. Who finds some space to shoot. It's blocked. Drops to Rico Lewis, whose shot is also blocked by Coop Miners. Still alive. Gundogan 25 yards out. Goes to the right here to Kyle Walker. Taking it around Yildiz. Positive running from Walker. Cross goes in, but straight to Locatelli, who plays it out wide here to Kalulu, who just about loses out to Gundogan. Walker plays it quickly to his left here to De Bruyne. De Bruyne kicking it straight off Locatelli. That's a poor pass from De Bruyne. And it's Vlahovic to try and run away with it. Sending it out wide right to Conceição, who brings it down rather well. Sends himself a bit further out wide than he would have wanted. But he can now run at Gvardiol into the box. On the left foot, good block from the Croatian. And the loose ball will drop to Grealish on the left wing. Gets away from Savona. Towards Doku. Shoved off the ball too easily. And that'll be a throw-in for Juventus on the far side. Doku wanted a free kick, but he wasn't going to get it for that. Just too strong, really, in the end there. Federico Gatti, as I mentioned before, joined from Frosinone in January 2022, but just for €7.5 million. Quite a steal now. 2.5 years on for Juventus to pick up Federico Gatti. Gundogan heads away, a poor goalkeeping clearance for Juventus. Gundogan away from Coop Miners, 25 yards out, plays to his left to Grealish, on his right foot, works a bit of space, lays it off, Bernardo Silva, shot blocked by Danilo. Tried to swing it to the far post there, Bernardo Silva. Didn't really hit it with a lot of conviction, but still needed the necessary block from Danilo. Well worked there by Grealish, and Bernardo Silva's got to do better than that. And for now, Juventus still hold on to their lead. De Bruyne with an outswinger. Right arm raised from the Belgian. Into the near post, volleyed away for Juventus, up into the sky. Brought down by Gundogan, back out to De Bruyne. As they try a couple of 1-2s there, but it can't quite get away from Yildiz, who is going back towards his own goal here. Plays it inside brilliantly to Kalulu, will then just get rid for Juventus up towards the halfway line. Header won by Diaz on Conceição, just nodded it to his left to Gavardio. And we're just over half an hour to go. City still looking the game despite going behind 5 minutes ago after a Vlahovic header which outpowered Ederson. Walker to Bernardo Silva on that right wing again. Yeah, he's got Doku this time for company. Goes back instead to Walker. Gundogan. It's now with Diaz. Again, everyone behind the ball for Juventus in their own half. They sit so deep and compact. It's really good. As Gundogan balling behind for Doku. That's a great find. Doku pulls it back again. Haaland's not there on the scene quick enough. Cleared by Gatti. And it's a throw-in on this near side again from Manchester City. It just seems like Doku was offside there, I think. Don't think the flag's gone up, though. And let's have a look for this goal line technology. Ederson almost kept it out. But yeah, it's just crept over the line by about 5 or so centimetres there. It's unlucky for Ederson. Couldn't really do too much about it. Like I say, the header was right at him from about 2 yards out. Realistically, Vlahovic should have had it hit in the back of the net directly, really. But it's gone in anyway. So Vlahovic won't be complaining, and that free kick was given for offside. In the end, and Juventus clear it forward long. It's Thuram in behind here for Koopman, who heads it out to the left into Yildiz. Got to run at Walker. Gets a ball into the box. Ederson spills. It needs to be cleared. Still alive in the box, but Gundogan can take it away from Vlahovic. And City survive another scare. Gundogan clears it in a right-back position up towards Haaland. Touch away from Kalulu, but then loses out to Locatelli. And then he wins it back Haaland, and it drops to Grealish. Back through for Haaland again on the ball, who will drive with it and plays it out to the left here to Doku. Potential space opening for City. Doku tries to get away from Locatelli, but he nicks the ball away. And it's Juventus who win it back. Doku in disbelief. He didn't win the free kick there, but it didn't look like there was much wrong with that for me. Savona. Being pressed here by De Bruyne on the edge of his 18-yard box, but gets it across to the left to number 15 of Pierre Kalulu. Spent a lot of time injured last season. The French centre-back was out from November to February, then out between March and April as well. Just didn't get a lot of time on the pitch last season, but was a heavy part of AC Milan's title win in the 21-22 season, Pierre Kalulu. So he's a really smart loan signing, I'd say, from Juventus. And Thiago Motta. Juventus have got it, passing it around in their own half here and doing it rather delicately and keeping it well. Thuram going back here into Gatti. It's now Di Gregorio, the goalkeeper. Allowed time to clear the ball deep into the City half. Diaz is going to go for it. He'll go beyond him and Vlahovic, and then the ball through for Yildiz towards Vlahovic. Can't quite reach him, and City deal with it nicely. Gundogan now in the midfield to have it. Into the centre circle he goes and plays out to the left of De Bruyne, into his path nicely. And it's now with Doku in the final third, running at Savona. Inside to De Bruyne. Back through for Doku, who's got away. And he squares it again, and no one's there. And he goes all the way behind for a goal kick. Doku again looking in disbelief of how on earth that hasn't been finished. Right across the 6-yard box. Doku's aimed it towards the far post. Haaland's kind of pulled back for a pullback. And again, both lost in translation. And Juventus survive as they keep their 1-goal lead at the moment. Throwing by Danilo to Yildiz. Bernardo Silva on the scene to tackle. Kick it off Yildiz and win. A corner kick. Bit of hard work there. Wins a corner from Bernardo Silva. His last Champions League goal, Bernardo Silva, was in the quarter-final first leg against Real Madrid last season. From the free kick direct, it was a rather clever one from Bernardo Silva. It's from the corner. City went short, and they're still trying to work it into an area where they can be dangerous, but it's given away by De Bruyne. Came off the leg of Yildiz, and then was picked up by Conceição. But then the poor ball from the winger is won back by Walker. It's now De Bruyne in the central area. Just about gets it to his left ear to Grealish. He's going to run at Kalulu. Back inside to De Bruyne. Doku's free on the right. He'll play it to him. Doku on the angle. Pulls it back, and it's well defended at the moment. Drops to Bernardo Silva. De Bruyne now. Lays it off. Gundogan's shot blocked by Locatelli. Kyle Walker's then pass is stopped by Kalulu. Deflects to the halfway line to Diaz. And again, City really lacking conviction, but Juventus defending strongly at the moment. 25 minutes left to play of this game. It's still 1-0 to Juventus. City are starting to create openings, but just not exactly looking like they're going to score these chances they're finding themselves. Again, everyone behind the ball here for Juventus is Gundogan. Still has the ball here, the former Dortmund man. Bernardo Silva down the left-hand side to Grealish. Just about keeps it in, but then tackled by Locatelli. And that'll be a throw-in for City midway inside the Juventus half on that far side. De Bruyne. From afar, let's fly. And it's just wide of that left-hand post. We know he's got a rocket on him. Kevin De Bruyne scored himself against Real Madrid last season in the second leg to send it to extra time. He was always just bending away from goal there from Kevin De Bruyne. About 22 yards out there. Needs to try and work that on target if possible next time. Not saying it would go in if it was on target, but try and give the goalkeeper something to save. City have already won it back here. Diaz guiding it back to Ederson. No changes yet as well from either of the two teams so far. City do have the likes of Phil Foden on the bench, Savinho, Nico O'Reilly, James McAtee, Mateus Nunes, Mateo Kovacic. So, options for City. As Diaz has got it midway inside the City half. Working it to Grealish towards the left-hand side of the pitch. Just inside the Juve half. Laying it off for Doku, who will drive inside. Then plays it back to Rico Lewis. Who, of course, will be unavailable for that derby at the weekend. Means Manchester City will have to make some defensive arrangements and adjustments. Because Ake's not back, Stones won't be back, and it's a bit touch and go at the moment with Manuel Akanji. Grealish on that left wing again, running at Savona. Just outside the box for the moment. Goes back here to Gvardiol. Across to the edge of the area, it's Gundogan who will get the shot off, and it's well saved by the goalkeeper, Di Gregorio, who's aimed towards the top right corner. It's not a bad attempt, that, by Ilkay Gundogan. As they've taken it short and quickly, Bernardo Silva to the edge of the area to Gundogan, back through for Bernardo Silva, then Gundogan again, brilliant football. Ilkay Gundogan's cut back, deflects off the Juventus defender, then back off Gundogan, and it will be a goal kick. That's better from City, but still not good enough. That time it was Bernardo Silva and Gundogan linking up together. We've got a quarter of the game to go here. Still 1-0 Juventus. Dusan Vlahovic with a goal in the 53rd minute. That's a great save, by the way, by Di Gregorio to stop Gundogan's first attempt. First change of the game. And it will see Juventus bring off Kefren. Oh, two changes. One of them is going to be Francisco Conceição for Timothy Weah, the son of George Weah. And the second change will see Kefren Turam come off. And in his place will be Weston McKennie, making his 148th Juventus appearance, the American. It's his fifth of the Champions League campaign, scored in the opening game against PSV. And you might think, why is Douglas Luiz not coming on for Juventus? He's not exactly started his Juventus career well, but he has been out at the moment. He's been injured for the last 7 Serie A games, and he's had 0 minutes in the last 3 Champions League games. So McKennie's probably just a little bit more fit and ready to go. As Gundogan wins a free kick there, kicking the foot from Yildiz. Don't think it was intentional, but still caught Ilkay Gundogan. So City just inside their own half here have it. Now out wide right to Doku, who has just about kept it in there in front of Pep Guardiola and sends it back to Kyle Walker. Grealish running at Savona towards the final third. Onto that right foot, slipping it through for Bernardo Silva, who's towards the corner flag now. Being chased all the way by Locatelli, but works the ball to Grealish. Bernardo Silva. Grealish again. Closed down by Savona. Finds it into a more central area to Gundogan. Moves it on once more to Diaz. Doku on the right wing. Wants to run at Danilo. And he's tackled by Danilo. Kicks it into his own box. It's now with Yildiz to Danilo. Lifts it down the line towards the runner Coop Miners. It's a brilliant pass. Diaz gets there first and can only boot it out of play. Free Juventus throw in. It's taken quickly by Coop Miners to the runner Vlahovic. His touch is heavy inside and it allows Gvardiol to get there. And it's very calmly dealt with in the end by Ederson. And Manchester City, again, just need to try and look a bit more dangerous when they have the ball, because Juventus certainly do when they have it, and it's not often that Juventus have had the ball in this game. Gundogan. Bernardo Silva this time on the left-hand side with the ball. Running around him is Gundogan, but he works it to Grealish instead. Grealish running at Savona. Onto that right foot. Goes to the edge of the area here to Rico Lewis. Sees a switch out to Doku. Brilliant ball. Doku brings it down. Gets a bit of space. Goes back into Walker. Takes a touch. Crosses in. Header away by Gatti. Only as far as Gvardiol. He will sprint down the left-hand side. In the box. Tries the cross. Comes off Weah. And that'll be a corner for Manchester City. It's not like they're not trying their hardest here, Manchester City, but at the moment, it's just not good enough. Grealish from the corner that's been taken short. De Bruyne out wide to Bernardo Silva. Fakes the first cross, then goes back into De Bruyne, who from afar is going to let fly, and that's well over the bar. Really poor decision-making and execution there from Kevin De Bruyne, who again scored only twice so far this season, early on against Ipswich and then in a more recent game against Forest. But Thiago Motta has certainly got his Juventus side hard to beat, and that's been shown by the fact they've only lost 1 game so far this season, and that was in the Champions League at home to Stuttgart. Goal kick taken. Bounces off Vlahovic on this near side, out for a throw-in for Manchester City. Grealish on the far side. Having to go to the halfway line here to Gvardiol. Diaz. Just in front of the centre circle is Rico Lewis. Wanting to play that ball forward, goes to his left to Gvardiol, then back to Lewis again. City have had 11 shots so far tonight. Not one of them in the back of the net so far. Gundogan just needs to try and keep the ball moving as quickly as possible here, Manchester City. Still not made a change yet, though, the Blues. Gundogan tries to go out wide there, but the pass comes off Coop Miners. Gvardiol will get there first. De Bruyne inside to Rico Lewis. City still have it, but it feels like they've just got to try and make a few more riskier passes. Been a bit too safe at the moment. Doku on the right wing. Can't take on Danilo. Tackled. Danilo to Yildiz. Returns it to Danilo. Then back inside to McKennie, who's got all the space in the world in the middle. And then lays it out to the right to Weah, who gets there in the box. Angles tight, so tries the cross. Deflects back to him off Lewis. Lifted ball. Weston McKennie! And that's 2 for Juventus. Both of the recent substitutes link up together for the second. And it's Weston McKennie to get his 3rd of the season. He's missed the last 3 games, no competitions, but he's back with a goal. And that is the breathing space that Juventus needed in this game. They've had to do a lot of defending for the majority of the first 75 minutes of the game. But every time they've had the ball and they've gone forward, they have looked dangerous. And that counter-attack really puts a big nail in the Manchester City coffin here in Turin. Started with McKennie lifting it out to the right-hand side to Weah. His first low ball was deflected off Lewis back to Weah, who then lifted it towards the far post. Bit of curl on it. It was curling away from goal, the cross. But McKennie was able to watch the ball through. And a little bit of an acrobatic attempt, really. Bit of a bicycle kick motion to power that home beyond Ederson. Again, no chance for the Brazilian. And a little bit too easy, you could say, for Juventus to score. But they are in control of this game. And Thiago Motta's men look like they're going to go another game this season, avoiding defeat. It's going to be 1 defeat in their first 21 games, conceding just 15. They're going to be a tough team to beat this season. They're going to be a tough outfit as well in this Champions League. And they've got a 2-0 lead against City. As the home crowd literally bounce around in delight of their 2-0 scoreline, and they look like they want to make it 3. Yildiz, loads of time and space on this left-hand side. Walker comes across. Yildiz still running with it. Danilo's joined in. He finds Danilo, who crosses it all the way through. Deflects away to Bernardo Silva on the edge of the City box, and he can drive away with it now. Bernardo Silva needs to try and play a pass forward, but no one's really available to him. Walker eventually gets it on the halfway line. It's now De Bruyne on the right-hand side. Plays it to Doku, rather isolated on the winger position there. And again, City have it with Juventus putting everyone behind the ball. And it's been working for them. City allowing it to happen, though, not moving the ball quickly enough to get the Juventus team out of shape. Gundogan about 25 yards from goal. And just not knowing what pass to make. He'll go simple to Gvardiol, who then returns it to Gundogan. Then forward in the box to Bernardo Silva. It deflects towards Haaland, caught by the goalkeeper. That's the passing they need to be doing more of, Manchester City. That ball from Gundogan, it was a risky ball. It wasn't exactly always going to get to Bernardo Silva, but it did. But they weren't quite able to make the most of it in the end, as we've got 12.5 minutes to play of the 90. It's Juventus 2, Manchester City 0. As City are making a change, readying a change. And it's going to be Savinho to come on. Danilo's down for Juve, the captain. Number 6. Who was sent off in that loss at home to Stuttgart. As again, the way that City lost the ball for the goal, it's really poor. It's like the first one as well. Doku just giving it away too easily to Danilo. Then the build-up play and the overall finish to the move for Juventus were really good, taking away nothing from that. But the way they give it away with Doku just almost lazily just running into Danilo, it's not good enough. It's like the first goal, Gvardiol tried to clear it possibly, but instead he just passed it out wide to the Juventus left, where Yildiz got a crossing, and Vlahovic sent it into the back of the net, just beyond the goal line in the end. We had to have a look at goal line technology to make sure it definitely went in as the City changes Doku off for Savinho. Yet to score so far this season in all competitions, Savinho, after his £30 million move from Troyes in the summer, started 5 of the last 10 in the Premier League. Gundogan to De Bruyne. Savinho running at Danilo. Danilo wins it and wins the throw-in. Kicks it off Savinho. And that's going to be a Juventus ball in the left-back position with the throw-in. Well won there by Danilo, whose contract does expire at the end of this season. Danilo kicking the ball forward, getting the return from the throw-in, but straight to Gvardiol on halfway. And City have it back. But it just doesn't get much better, does it? 2 wins from 11 now for Manchester City. It'll be 1 win from their last 10 in all competitions. 1 win from their last 10. It is numbers that we have never seen before from this Manchester City side under Pep Guardiola. Even his first season wasn't successful, but I don't think it got as gloomy as it has now. Of course, they've got issues off the pitch in terms of injuries, but the players they've got on the pitch are more than good enough to be performing better than what they are. Gundogan has it, about 30 yards from goal. Everyone behind the ball for Juventus. I'm telling you, they know how to defend. Got to admire the hard work they put in and the concentration to stop the opposition scoring. Grealish on the left wing, onto his right foot, faking a first cross. They're playing it to Gundogan. Kyle Walker to De Bruyne. To Gundogan again, 9.5 minutes of the 90 to play. De Bruyne to Savinho. Onto his left foot. Back to De Bruyne, crosses it in, header away from Locatelli. Vlahovic lifts it over De Bruyne to Yildiz. Can't quite get there ahead of Savinho. And Diaz starts again, going back to Ederson. And Manchester City have it in their own half. Good, solid defending though once again there from Juventus. De Bruyne on the near side. Forward to Savinho, who'd made a run into the half space. It's now Grealish controlling the switch pass. There's Arsenal, a 2-0 up at home to Monaco. Saka with both. Walker into Grealish on the edge of the box. Works it away from Locatelli. Turning away from the Italian. Trip then from the Italian. And there'll be a free kick for Manchester City. Won there by Jack Grealish. And what I've noticed about the Juventus starting 11 and the squad, especially defensively, a lot of Italians involved in the starting 11. Di Gregorio, Savona, Gatti, Locatelli as well. And the bench as well, full of Italians, with Perrin the goalkeeper, Pinzoglio, Fagioli, and a lot of youth as well. Brought in with the introduction of their new head coach, Thiago Motta. Just 42 years of age, the Italian, Brazilian born, but Italian nationality for Motta as De Bruyne clips that free kick in. Header away though by Kalulu, winning it ahead of Diaz. Clearance is out of play, throwing for Manchester City, which is taken quickly by Rico Lewis to Kyle Walker. On the halfway line once again here, Manchester City. Their next 2 Champions League games for City as well, a PSG away and Club Brugge at home. It is looking tight for City to qualify from the Champions League phase. They are 22nd, and it's the top 24 who go through to a knockout game. 9th to 24th is playoff, and then 1st to 8th are straight through to the last 16 as Grealish commits a foul on Locatelli and picks up a yellow card. Manchester City's number 10, who you've got to say, overall, his £100 million move cannot be considered a success. I don't even think the Jack Grealish move would be a success if he'd moved for 60 million, 70 million. His output has just not been good enough at all, and Is Grealish completely to blame? Who knows? Because you do feel like the sheer ability and rawness and the reason Grealish is so good has kind of been sucked out of him by Pep Guardiola playing the Pep way. You know, Grealish is better with freedom, but obviously Guardiola's play is a lot more structured, but it's just not been good enough. 14 goals from 140 appearances. His last goal almost a year ago now in a 2-2 home draw to Palace. Not good enough at all. Juventus will make 2 changes with 6 to play. Yildiz comes off. He's been brilliant, the number 10, the Turkish winger. He's been really good. He comes off, and so does the other goal scorer. Well, Vlahovic is the other goal scorer, and he comes off. Scored the first goal. The Serbian. He's now got 6 in 12 Champions League appearances, Vlahovic. He does like this competition. So Vlahovic and Yildiz off for Douglas Luiz and Mbangula, the Belgian winger, who signed a new 4-year deal at Juventus in September 2024 as the Juventus goalkeeper, Mikel Di Gregorio, is booked for time wasting. Eventually taken, headed in the air by Gvardiol, kept in by Grealish, played down the line where he'll be chased down by Haaland, but he won't get there, headed Gatti. It's now with Pierre Kalulu for Juventus, midway side their own half. To the left it goes to Danilo. Forward to McKennie's flick, can't quite find a black and white shirt, and it's now with Savinho. His pass deflects down the line for De Bruyne. 3 bodies in the box for City, low ball goes in, kicked by Luiz and straight to the goalkeeper of Di Gregorio. And again, Juventus survive. As Bernardo Silva there getting a bit of a shove and a push from Di Gregorio and Gatti, and Bernardo Silva's booked. I think there was a little bit of a shove from Bernardo Silva on Gatti as the ball went into the gloves of Di Gregorio. I think a bit of frustration more than anything there from Bernardo Silva. Like I say, Di Gregorio got the ball in his hands, and as he got it in the hand, Bernardo Silva just shoved Gatti into his own goalkeeper. Four minutes of the 90 to go. It's Juventus 2, Manchester City 0. And there'll be 3 Champions League games in a row for City where they have failed to win. Free kick for Juventus. Kyle Walker fouling the recent substitute of Samuel Mbangula. Scored the last minute equaliser at the weekend as Manchester City make another change. And we were just talking about the poor nature of the Grealish signing, and he comes off for Matheus Nunes, who was voted City's Fans Player of the Month for November. Seems to have come on his own a little bit. Matheus Nunes in the last couple of months for City after joining for £53 million from Wolves last summer. He's got 5 starts in his last 7 Premier League games, Nunes. Scored in the Champions League. It was a penalty against Sparta Prague late on in match day 3. And Nunes' first involvement. Tackled on the far side by Locatelli on the halfway line, throwing for the home side. Diaz quickly working it to this near side here to De Bruyne. Diaz in the centre circle. 5-yard pass to his left to Gvardiol, then forward to Rico Lewis. Back out wide it goes here to Matheus Nunes. Walker. Out wide to De Bruyne on the right flank. Tries to play it towards Haaland in the box. Cleared away by McKennie. Chested forward by Danilo. Mbangula. To Danilo. Twisting and turning, but kicking the ball straight to Gundogan. It's now Bernardo Silva. Right-footed cross goes in. Touch from Haaland and then cleared by Savona. Straight to Walker, who chested it to his left to Diaz. 90 seconds of the 90 to go. It's Gvardiol, left centre-back. Nunes onto his right foot, about 25 yards from goal. Goes once more to his left there, to Savinho. Gundogan. Nunes on the left wing. Onto that right foot. Working a bit of space. Taking his time, but then plays a pass across to the right to Walker. It's now forward to Bernardo Silva. Diaz. Gvardiol. Rico Lewis. All of this going on outside the Juventus box as eventually De Bruyne clips it into the box for Gvardiol. Then finds Rico Lewis, whose shot comes off a hand. Definitely comes off a hand. The referee waves it away, but I think VAR will have a good look at that. That Rico Lewis shot certainly came off a hand. De Bruyne chipped it in the box for Gvardiol, laid it off for Lewis. And I mean, don't get me wrong, his hand's by his side, Federico Gatti. But that, it's thigh, then knee, it looks at thigh, then hand to me. And I don't think City will be getting a penalty for that, like I said, I think it came off his thigh first, then onto his hand. As we are hitting the 90th minute, we have got 2 added on. And it does look like Juventus will be strolling to a 2-0 win. And it'll be their 4th win in 7 against Manchester City in the history of the fixture. Can City at least score a consolation? Diaz. To his left to Gvardiol. Savinho, who swapped the right wing for the left. Then playing it back to Gvardiol. Diaz. To Walker. And out wide to De Bruyne. Getting a full 90 minutes under his belt. That's good news for City if there's any positives to take from tonight. But they're giving it away. Gundogan can't link the play up. Gvardiol takes out Weah. And that will probably be that free kick given. Pep Guardiola has got to start worrying. I'm not saying for his job because he's just been given a new contract. I'm not saying that. But where do things turn around for Manchester City? This is going to be their 7th loss of the season. 6 of them away from home as well. And it just doesn't look like it's getting any better. Even with certain players coming back, it's still not changing. Don't get me wrong, they could do with Rodri back for sure, we all know that. But even the likes of Kovacic not being around, Ake, Akanji, Stones, Bob as well, who had a brilliant pre-season for Manchester City. He probably would have started the season firing if he didn't pick up that injury before the start of the proper season. But we're about to hit the 92nd minute and play the 2 added on. Thrown to the corner flag, shielded around, and then the referee will blow for full time. And it's a huge 3 points for Juventus. It's a Thiago Motta masterclass against Pep Guardiola. Completely and utterly outclassed the Spaniard tonight. Tactically, and with the quality his players provided him on the pitch. It was a 0-0 first half, but the second half is when the 2 goals came, and the first one was in the 53rd minute through Dusan Vlahovic. It was a cross into the box by Gildiz, who had caused Walker all kinds of problems all night. It was a curling cross in towards goal, and a couple of yards out, Vlahovic powered the header straight at Ederson, who couldn't quite stop the ball from hitting off him and going beyond the goal line and getting that 1-goal lead for Juventus. And they doubled it with 15 to play on the break. The 2 substitutes, Weston McKennie playing it out wide right to Timothy Weah. His first cross came off a City man, then deflected back to Weah, who again crossed it high towards the far post, and Weston McKennie with a bicycle-like attempt absolutely powered it home. Again, a shot just too hot for Ederson to handle. Manchester City had 70% of the ball, 12 shots, 3 on target. but lacked many clear-cut chances. Haaland had one saved in the first half. Gundogan had a curling shot towards the top right corner, also saved at 1-0. But there is that fire that just seems to be lacking in these City performances. Clearly low on confidence, and their travelling support go home empty-handed. And for Manchester City, they've got to start wondering, when is the next win? It is 1 win from their last 10 at the moment. 2 from their last 11. They've got the Manchester derby at the Etihad up next. But a lot of thinking and a lot of sorting out for Guardiola to do here. As in Turin tonight, it finishes Juventus 2, Manchester City 0. The club must have faith, otherwise he would have been out. I think with Guardiola, because obviously he's got so much reputation and he's done so much for Manchester City, he's going to have time to turn it around. Again, like I say, for me, they've still got good enough players to not be in this kind of form. But to be missing Stones, Kovacic, Ake, Akanji, Rodri, Bob, they are big players to miss. But again, I don't think that's enough of an excuse to not, be winning games a little bit more regularly than they are now. But don't get me wrong, any other manager, any other club, there's big question marks, there is for sure. But I think another thing as well for City, again, I think the league title is probably out of reach. They're 8 points off it at the moment, but and Liverpool also have a game in hand as well. But they're 4th in the league, so at this point it's not like they're not even close to Champions League football. They're still in the top 4 just, which I think for City this season will probably be a good achievement with the form they're in. I think they'll take top 4 if they were offered it at the end of this season. And they are also still in the Champions League. Don't get me wrong, they are cutting it fine. Manchester City now sits 22nd in the league phase table. And they are 1 point off 25th place PSG, who take up that first relegation spot. And City go to PSG in the next game. That is going to be huge for both of those clubs. Manchester City and PSG both need to win that if they want to qualify for the playoff round. Never mind the last 16 and get the top 8. Both PSG and City just want to finish in the top 24 and both need to win that game if either of them want to go on and qualify. So that's a huge game coming up for Manchester City. Their next one in the Champions League, which is PSG away from home, and then they finish playing Club Brugge at home. And Club Brugge are doing well themselves. They've got 3 wins from 6. They're 19th. So yeah, for City, it's a lot of hard work to do, but they're still in and around it. Still in the FA Cup, of course. They've not even started that campaign yet. They're just about in the Champions League, and they are still well and truly in the top 4. So at the moment, I don't think there's too many panic buttons being pressed. But, in a couple of months' time, come January, if City do get knocked out of the Champions League, and they are losing ground on top 4, the questions have got to be asked. All managers get questions asked when they're struggling. Like I said, I think Guardiola has got a bit of reputation on his side. The fact he's done so much for this club, I think he's got a lot more time than a lot of other managers. A lot of other managers would have to turn it around. But if they come out of the Champions League, if they lose ground on top 4, if they possibly get knocked out of the FA Cup at some point soon, I'm assuming they won't get knocked out to Salford. But at this rate, you don't know with Manchester City. But I think he's just got enough going on at the moment, Guardiola, to of course, be given the time he requires. But like I say, it could all start quickly going wrong for City if that top 4 spot kind of gets away from them. If they get knocked out, of the Champions League in the league phase, questions have got to be asked. But then again, what manager is going to come in and get something else out of this squad? I don't know who does. It just seems like any manager coming into this squad would struggle to get something going. So it's a lot of questions, a lot of discourse for conversation, but as it stands simply, Manchester City is struggling, and it looks like Guardiola has to be the man to get them out of the mess. Like I say, at the minute he's struggling to do that, he'll be given loads of time to sort it out. But like I say, like any manager at any club, questions will be asked if things continue to deteriorate for Manchester City. What's happening with the team? They're never known it this bad. I'm not sure. Like, don't get me wrong, some people see this as a bad thing, and it can be when this happens. And I'm not calling Manchester City a one-man team But I think this really does highlight how important Rodri is to this Manchester City team. You know, you've got the goals of Haaland, you've got the creation with De Bruyne. But if you don't have that central midfielder who can tick the game over so easily, who can break up play so easily, it shows. And they've not got anyone to do that. And again, a bit more unfortunate circumstances for City that they've had Kovacic out at a similar time. But it just highlights how good Rodri is. And I do think a lot of this poor form is down to him not playing. I don't think they lose as many games if Rodri's playing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they turn all of these losses to wins, but I don't think they're in such bad form if Rodri plays, if I'm being honest. I think this really does showcase why he won the Ballon d'Or and why he's so important to Manchester City. That is how good he is. So I think that's a huge problem. And as well, consistency with a back four. United struggled with it last season. You know, Evans played nearly all the season. They had different centre-back pairings all the time. Manchester United and City are struggling with it slightly this season. You know, Diaz has had time out, but he's back in. But then when they lose Diaz, when they get Diaz back, Stones is out, then Ake's out, and Akanji's out. You know, it's just, they're getting a lot of injuries. And it's not even like these injuries are long. They're just long enough where they miss a couple of games and then, you know, one of the centre-backs has got to get used to another centre-back being next to him, and then when one of the other centre-backs come back, another goes out, and then they've got to get used to playing with him again. I think it's just all a little bit messy at the moment with City, with injuries and players coming back at certain times, then losing players as well. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of questions, and the only ones who can answer the questions are this City squad and Pep Guardiola. Like I say, you know, they'll be low on confidence at the moment for sure, but if they can't get up for a Manchester derby at home against a struggling Manchester United, then I think you've got to look past the manager and the tactics of this squad, and you've got to ask questions of the players and their desire for this club. You know, it's very hard to keep winning stuff. You know, to win 4 Premier League titles in a row is quite frankly ridiculous. But if they show a performance at the weekend against United which shows maybe fight, passion, speed, then like I say, sometimes it goes beyond the manager and tactics, and you've got to start pointing fingers at the players. But we'll have to see what happens with that Manchester derby on Sunday. That's going to be a really interesting watch, that one, on Sunday. But for me, that's going to be the end of the live commentary. Like I say, I don't know when my next one will be. Just trying to find time to do one. My last 2 have been Manchester City, so I'll try and do a different game and a different team next time around. But I hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, listen to this live commentary. If you did enjoy, like and subscribe. Like I say, don't know when the next one is, but just subscribe so you know exactly when that next live commentary does happen. But here at the Allianz Stadium in Turin, it was a very impressive Juventus performance. Despite Manchester City looking slow and playing quite lethargic, Juventus defended really solidly and attacked with real danger, and was just too much for Manchester City on the counter-attack. A header from Vlahovic and an acrobatic volley from McKennie was the difference. As here in Turin, it finishes Juventus 2, Manchester City 0.